Okay, here we are again, once again, people. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today?
Very
Doing
well,
good.
thank you. It's
Okay.
Monday.
Happy New Year,
Excellent.
Dr. R.
Yeah,
Happy New
Thank
Year.
you. Yes. What I like to do is I like to figure out where we are and when we are. So today is Rosh Hashanah. Tonight it starts. It's the Jewish New Year. We have a lot of Jews in this area, myself included. So yes, thank you. Happy New Year to me. Happy New Year to everybody. Let's make sure it's a sweet year. We like to dip apples in honey to make sure it's a sweet year. For those of you on program, don't do it.
You know,
Let me
yeah.
just remind you that.
You can have an apple.
So that's the time of year. It's a gorgeous day here in New
Mhm.
Jersey. We are, of course, scattered throughout New Jersey. You are where you are. We are all of us, as far as I know, in these United States. We are sharing this earth. We are in the Milky Way. I believe that's the correct galaxy, and all part of this universe. And here we are together, brought together by fate, by silliness. Remember who we are. We are ThinTech, and what we do usually is we get people healthier and leaner. But every Monday morning at 10 o'clock, we come together to throw ourselves under the bus, to humiliate ourselves, so you have a better outcome. That is our mission, apparently, and this is
True.
what we do. Right?
Very true.
Any
Mhm.
comments? Any thoughts about that, guys?
Couldn't agree more.
Not a
Couldn't
one.
agree more. So people are starting to join us. They're no doubt drinking their morning coffee, as is
Yeah.
Jen, with some kind of a comical mug that she's going to put into the camera. She always does that. What does it say, Jen?
It says, "Hello, pumpkin."
Hello, pumpkin.
Hello, pumpkin.
Is that a Jerry Seinfeld voice?
No, it's Frank saying, "Good morning, pumpkin." In his morning voice.
Now, if you are a thin texter joining us, please be generous with the likes and the shares and the comments. Ideally, this is supposed to be a conversation. It is always a conversation between me and my staff, but we want to get people involved as well. Do not be a spectator. Spectatorism is endemic or pandemic right now, as
Yeah.
is a bunch of other things, right? So let's get rolling. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we are discussing the cost of being healthy. So, being healthy is like anything else. If you want to be healthy, there is a cost associated with it. Now, before I get into what I want to say, Jackie is the one who came up with this topic. So, Jackie, I'd like to know what your thoughts are, why you came up with this topic, and what it means to you.
So my thoughts on this are pretty much, coming from perspective of a mom with young kids, especially, like what is the cost of being healthy in general? I don't associate it with the dollar amount, where a lot of people do. They say it's too expensive. Food is expensive. I feel like life in general is expensive, especially now. So that's not where my head goes. My head actually goes to something similar to like what Corinne and I discussed, which is a little different, but it's what does it cost you in terms of your life and your time to make healthier choices, to do things, to live a healthy, happy life, to set an example, especially for
Okay.
those around us. So that's where I was going with it.
Okay, got it. So let me tell you where I went with it. You know, I was in New York City this weekend, and anybody who ever goes to New York will notice the disparity between people there. If you go there, it's the greatest place in the world to people watch, right?
Yes.
And you'll notice that sometimes you'll see someone getting out of a limo in a Brooks Brothers suit, and right next to the limo there'll be a homeless person.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really runs the
Mhm.
gamut of
Mm-hmm.
human potential and
Mm-hmm.
human
Loss.
finance and anything else you could think
Oh
of, right?
yeah.
So, what is the difference between the guy in the limo and the guy who's homeless? I would submit there are a lot of differences.
Yeah.
Everything between, well, I don't know that I want to speculate on the differences, right? That could be
Mm-hmm.
very judgmental. But what I will
From the
say
outside.
is that one of the differences is that wealthy people in general tend to not waste resources. They tend to flow their resources towards those things that are going to bring them greater wealth, greater
Yeah.
health, greater fulfillment. And that's really what came to mind for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do have some actually stats on this because you know me, I always do my research. So there are some things I want to bring up, but when I say that, Jen, what are your first thoughts? And I'm always interested in your first thoughts because I never know what's coming.
You think you do, and then I go in a whole different direction.
I never. It's always very confusing to me. Sometimes I get dizzy. I've passed out on occasion. So I am curious.
Well, I would say that if you're getting dizzy, you probably need to look up some of the words that I'm saying because you might not have understanding of some of the vocabulary.
So sometimes I feel like the cartoon character who goes, yeah.
So, how do I solidify this? Because there are so many thoughts running through my mind. Oh God, you're going to throw me under the bus and make me end up being the judgmental bad guy. My thoughts on this are that opportunity is in front of us every single day, and that we choose to grasp that opportunity or not. And we first have to be able to recognize the opportunities that are there, and they come in subtle and not so subtle ways.
Mhm.
So if you have the opportunity in front of you to make healthy choices, take those healthy choices, whether it's a healthy financial plan or a healthy eating plan or a healthy family togetherness plan, because you don't know the choice that you're making today. And I would actually back that up a little bit. I would say we do know the choice. We just don't recognize it. Every little choice builds on itself for the future. So, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, since you like the sports metaphors and references.
I don't know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
It's very easy to look back over your shoulder. That's my bonus son is here for the week, so he's popping in saying hello. It's very easy to look back and say, had I done that differently, this would have been a whole different situation. But the reality is we are the architects of our own lives. We sculpt, we are the authors of our present and our future. So we spend a lot of time looking back at what we shoulda, coulda, woulda done, when we should really be building in the present and moving forward into the future.
Very profound, Jen.
1,000%.
And one of the things that strikes me about what you're saying is you talked about choice, right? We're always a choice, right? And that's where our power lies. Our power lies in our ability to choose. And we're faced with 80,000 choices a day. And those choices can be, used to build one upon another to raise us up, or the choices could be used or misused to crush us.
Yes.
So here's a question, and I'm going to, Jen, if you could just hold on to it, because I don't want to forget this question. And at my age, I often do. So here's my question, though. Anytime we make a choice, we're making a choice from some place. And let me ask Trish, when you're making choices about health, what are you usually choosing from? What is the criteria that you're choosing? Are you thinking with what will give me the greatest health? What will allow me to build the strongest self or to perform the best? Or are you thinking more with immediate needs?
I would, for myself, like immediate needs, like, which can lead to future, decisions also. So I feel like immediately, what in this time will work best for me? And at this minute, what do I need? But then those choices that I make will lead for the future to be better.
Well, but sometimes those things are in opposition, though, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, let's face it. I mean, if a person wants to be healthier, it's generally, if you're choosing for food, for example, it's generally more expensive to choose the healthy food than it is the cheap processed food, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
Long term.
So do you ever find yourself faced with that conflict, and how do you resolve it?
I normally don't. Like that, to me, I don't really, I feel like food for me, I've learned that it's more it's a need, not a want now. Like, so I know what I need that works for my body, what I need to eat properly and all that. So I don't really even look at cost anymore. Everything is expensive. everything is. So what is the point in nickeling and diming, a few dollars here and there? So I do lately have been trying to make obviously the better choices. I'm on program, I have a goal in my head that I want to reach. So for me, I'm not even thinking of that stuff right now. So
Okay. Well, do you
Yeah.
know, and you probably don't, that's why I'm posing it that way. Did you know that Harvard did a study, and the study showed that to eat healthier, and the way they define healthier as, whole foods, fruits, vegetable, not necessarily from Whole Foods Market, but fruits, vegetables,
The pyramid.
lean proteins, fish, etc. To eat healthily costs about $1.50 per person per day more than it would be to eat unhealthily.
Right.
Now, that could, of course, add up, but that doesn't sound like that much money. I mean, that's less than a cup of coffee in most places. So
Right.
the question that I just posed to you, I also want to pose to Corinne. Corinne, do you find that there's sometimes a tension between what it is that you know to do and what it is that that's easier, or that saves resources instead of having you expend them? And will you think differently about that now that we're having this conversation?
Yes, I do find that I try to make the best decisions, but sometimes those decisions are cost-based decisions. So I'm not one to really buy processed foods or processed vegetables, but for example, if chicken is super expensive, I would buy the chicken that says like no hormones added or no this, but it's not necessarily organic. So I'll
Understood.
try to make a better choice, but trying to save a couple of dollars while doing it. Now, based on what you just said, I was actually doing the quick math in my head, and for like a family of 4, that's an extra $12 a day, right?
No, the math. Where'd you go to
6.
high school?
Sorry,
It's
$6 a day.
six. Yeah.
See, I just went.
You had me
So-
thinking. I'm like, wait.
I'm like, did I? No, sorry, I doubled it. So, it's $6 a day. You know what I mean? So for an extra $6 a day, you might as well spend the extra money if you can afford it, and eat organic, for example, if you can.
Right.
Or
Well, I want to give you some more data, and then we'll go to Jackie.
Yeah,
And then I
I
want to
did that.
circle back around.
I'm not
to
in the
Jen.
right frame today.
Yeah, I've got people jumping out of their seats. And then I
I'm
want to go to
dying right
Jen
now.
because she had something important to say. So let me just give you some data based on this extensive research that I've done. So here's what I discovered. I looked up like what wealthy people do, how they spend their resources, etc. And here's what I came up with. So in general, millionaires will spend more resources towards personal growth activity, right? Millionaires seem to hate waste, and we'll get back to that. But they spend 5.5 hours, according to one study, they spend 5.5 hours per week reading for pleasure and exercising, right? So self-enhancement activities compared to 2.5 hours for the average person. They
Right.
spend only 2.5 hours per week on social media compared to 14 hours per week for the average person.
Yep.
They seem to be just more acutely aware of how they're spending resources. Another study showed that rich people tend to read more for self-improvement than they do for entertainment. See, they're not, they know their time is their most important resources, right? Is their most important resource. Now, the conclusion is that successful people despise distractions, despise waste, and they're not going to waste their time or their money or their resources on unnecessary things. They would rather make themselves better. Now, I got that out of the way. Jackie, what is it that you wanted to say?
Okay. So just to touch on the food part, because I kind of felt like I knew what Corinne was going with this, but so I segue to Jen too. So there is always a choice, no matter what we do.
Always.
In every aspect. There's always a choice in every part of our life. So in terms of planning, if we and everyone says, I don't have time to plan. You're planning and you don't even know it. You know,
Mhm.
you have work this week. You know, you need clean clothes. You know, you need food in some way. So they make it so easy. And when I say they, I'm speaking generally, right? I mean, there's Amazon, there's food service delivery, there's an app for everything. You're commuting to work. There's always an opportunity, like you're discussing, social media viewing. You know, we spend so much time and we say we don't have time scrolling through mindless videos. There are ways that we can allocate our time to make us better and do more for our family. So to turn around and say that, oh man, I'm in a jam, I'm running around, it's crazy, the kids are hungry, I'm hungry, let's get something. You know what? This is a little bit less expensive. It's a $4 difference. Let me save the $4 and grab that chicken. It's the same concept as if somebody is going to, let's say, Chipotle. And I hate to call it out Chipotle. I do love it, but we always pay extra for the guac, right? And we don't question the $3 upcharge for the guac per person.
Is it $3 for the guac?
Something like that. I haven't been there
It's
in a while.
something crazy.
Yeah, I don't even
It's-
think about that. I'm
you
taking
know,
that
so-
guac.
We're opting for the health. It's a healthier choice. We're getting, it's now a brown rice bowl or any of those things where I'm getting a poke bowl and I'm like, oh, I'll swap it for cauliflower. Oh, it's a $2 upcharge, but that's fine because it's a cauliflower and that's healthy in that immediate moment. And then you think about it in retrospect. Well, I just got, a family of 4, family of 6. You just did it for all of us for one meal.
Right.
We have to stop and think we're thinking in although we're saying to live your life in the moment, just think for a second, the grand scheme of things. It's not that one meal that's going to make the difference. So that's where I was going with that. So I was like,
Jackie brings up the profound idea of living very intentionally.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Jen, what is it that
Absolutely.
you wanted to say? Or are you on 6 other thoughts since that time?
I'm on 20 other thoughts since that
I
time.
know the ransom notes are coming out.
I'll post it.
I don't have any post-its. I have no thoughts.
Jen, do not walk into a bank with those things.
If you've ever seen Jen, well, there's post-it notes everywhere. It's like
Everywhere.
ransom notes.
How do you think I keep my life in order? I write everything down. Yeah, it's like
And then proceed to lose it. But go ahead.
I don't know. Do you guys have anything to say before I launch into my
Nope.
ransom note?
I'm good.
Oh,
Good.
wait.
The suspense is killing us.
So I have so many things. I'm going to try to tie this together. So
Give us just the top. Give us the top 15.
They
Okay.
all intertwine. So have patience. I will bring it full circle. I promise. So Jackie, as you said so astutely, brought up intentional living. So, one of the things is you're right. There is always a choice. And people always say, I can't make a decision. A no decision is still a decision. It's a decision by default.
Yeah.
So my thing with that is, if you're making a choice, if you have a choice, make the choice, make a healthier choice, because otherwise, by not deciding, you're still deciding, you're being blown along like, in the wind.
A leaf in the wind.
Leaf in the wind. So who do you want making a choice? Out there, everybody else, or you? Who wants to be the driver of your own bus, the architect of your own destiny? So that kind of brings me back a little bit to last week's YOLO. You only live once. So I had this thing saved, which I couldn't find last week, that says phrases like YOLO and everything in moderation are actually conversation stoppers. It's the person saying, I don't agree with you. I don't want to talk about it. It's called cognitive dissonance. And those things are called thought terminating cliches. So it's kind of
Whatever.
Whatever. But my point is, when you're having a conversation with somebody who says YOLO, pause and take a step back. You've got to pull on what the conversation is, because they're still making a choice, but not their own choice. You talked about wealthy people not wanting to waste. But I would think that there's also a little more going into that thought process. They also have the ability to decide to waste. So
resources.
they can choose to have or have not, which all of us need to get into a better mentality of that. Like, I'm saving this little nickel, this little dime, whatever it is,
on your coffee,
on my coffee, to not spend it somewhere else, but I'm still spending it somewhere else. And one of the biggest things that I learned early on was people put their resources where their
Values are.
where their values are. So I had a
They should never
client.
be. They should not.
They should not. We had very early on, there was a woman there, and she was an ex-client. She hasn't been with us in 6 years. And she was crying. She couldn't lose the weight and she couldn't afford it, and on and on and on. So I said, you know what? Just come in 2 weeks. Let's weigh you in again. Let's come up with a game plan. And I sat down and she said to me, I can't come in. I'm going on a cruise. And I went like this. Like, I didn't do this, but like inside, I went like this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow. You just told me in my head, because I, that you couldn't afford to take care of your health,
Yep.
but you're going on a cruise. So we look at the nickels and the dimes versus the bigger bucks. And what
Yeah.
happens is we are saving, but we're spending more in the long run.
Yes.
We're spending it in money, like what we talked about, the $6 a day, Corinne, for a family to upgrade to better eating. That's a latte a day. How many of us go for manicures? How many of us go grab a coffee? How many of us go buy the new cell phone? How many of us spend that money on things that are meant to keep us trapped in a consumer-based society while we're not taking care of the things that are important to us?
Right. Now, I'm
1000%.
reminded. You can throw those away. Confetti. It's all confetti.
Confetti for everybody.
I'm reminded, working as a chiropractor, I once had a conversation with a lady, and her first question was, is it covered by my insurance?
Ugh.
And it wasn't. And I told her that, and she got all up in arms. She was really upset. What do you mean it's not covered? I can't afford that. Now,
That's a whole other
looked at the lady.
conversation.
Yeah, she lived in Scarsdale. She
Yes.
was dripping diamonds. What she spent on surgery on her face and a little
Alone.
south of her face was many, many times more than what
Yeah.
she would have spent on building health.
Yeah.
So it was obvious what her values were. Now, I didn't point that out to her because even though I would have been right, I would not have been kind, and she would have been
Correct.
upset by that.
Correct.
Right. And it's okay. Like you said, we have choice. It's okay for people to choose to waste their money if that's what they're going to do,
they
or
wanna
to
do.
not use it to enhance themselves.
Mhm.
Correct.
But we all want to win in life. We all want to succeed. We all want to do better. And if we're going to do that, it takes a wise utilization of resources.
Yeah.
And the wisest way to utilize resource is to spend on things that enhance and build ourselves, allow us to perform better, allow us to feel better, right? And allow us to function better. Would anyone disagree with that?
No.
No? You guys
And-
aren't like me. You don't like to play devil's advocate.
No, I don't, because I feel like even like what Jen was saying, like, and this is to say, and this is not because I'm providing this as my opinion. I always make the best decisions because we are human, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And a lot of
Mhm.
times you're influenced by your surroundings or what's happening, or you're not thinking clearly, or
Let's face it, Jack, just having this conversation, we're all kind of afraid of being exposed as hypocrites because
well,
we've
that's
all gotten the
exactly.
lattes.
Absolutely. And
Yes,
I'm
we
the first one, and I'm a lid
Me too.
licker. Ask Jen. I lick those lids. That's me. I am that latte girl.
You've outed
I-
yourself.
Been there.
Been there,
Pumpkins.
been there, done that. I do it. I'm on program now. I'm not doing it right now. But what I do, I lick that lid and I
Pumpkin
pay for that lid.
wholesome.
And I don't want a paper straw, but that's a whole other conversation. But I like when I sit there and I think about it, and if I am in the presence of somebody else, and I'm just going to a restaurant. Okay, we'll stay with Starbucks because that seems to be costly, like everything else is, right? I walk into a local supermarket or into Whole Foods, and I was talking with a friend of mine where her and I, we pretty much cook home cooked meals 5-6 days a week, easy. And everything is always from scratch. And we talk about old recipes, and she's like, "Oh, I have to get really good veal chops." And we were just talking about this. So she goes, "But they're so hard to find really good." I said, "Yeah, you're right." I said, because now the quality of meat, unless you're getting a really good cut of meat, well, number one, it's mini fortune, right? She's a family of 5. And she went the other day and she goes, "Oh, great. Whole Foods has it. I placed an order." So she sends me a picture. She goes, "Oh my God, $103 for the 5 just for the meat." Now, before we all freak out, right? It's like, oh God, that's a lot. But
That's one meal at a good restaurant for one person.
Thank you. She goes,
Yep.
she goes, this was the longest veal ossobuco that I ever made. It was phenomenal. The cut was perfect. It was delicious. She goes, there was nothing left on the plate. She goes, why have a $7 bottle of wine with it? I'm going for the $30 bottle of wine. And she just gave herself and her family a quality Saturday night meal. They
Right.
absolutely devoured, and it was a family of 5. So now,
Right.
maybe
It would have cost
130
3 times that.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
but you're bringing to mind a question, Jack. And so the
Yeah.
question is, so she wanted to have a certain experience, right?
yeah, she gave her family an
And
experience.
She gave her family an experience. Now, could she have had that same experience while, having the $7 bottle of wine?
She could have with the food, sure, but it was at that point, you know what? I'm giving my family quality. This is full on quality. And a family of 5 doing the math for $130, it now costs for the entire meal $140. It's not a lot when
Right.
you break it down. But it's that gut punch, like, oh my gosh, $100 for meat? Like
Yes.
that's absurd.
No,
I'll just skip it. Let's go to McDonald's. A family of 5, it's still $50.
Have the dollar menu.
Easy.
I don't even know if
Yeah.
that's a thing anymore. I don't even think they have a dollar menu anymore.
Would it be too harsh to say that the people who are making those choices consistently are the people who are making the choice to not thrive, whether they're aware of it or not, right? If
Yes.
they're making the choice, to expend fewer resources on themselves
Right.
and on bettering themselves, then their capacity to perform better is going to be less.
Correct.
And that's going to have who knows what kind of consequences. Jen, you're shaking your head.
I'm
What
saying
do you,
that, that
what do you
and
mean
that's
by?
God, it spirals out. So here we have a society that is in trouble. I can't like whitewash it. We are in crisis as a society. So what we don't realize is every action, just like every choice we make for ourselves personally, every action spirals out. So if I make the choice to stay unhealthy, right?
Mhm.
And I'm going to McDonald's every day, but at the same time, I'm still getting my nails done and I've got the $1,000 iPhone and whatever. And my productivity drops. It's going to cost more in insurance money because I'm now unhealthy and need to have surgeries that I wouldn't have necessarily had. So we're talking about hidden costs. If I'm not as productive because I'm having this surgery because I didn't want to eat healthy, so I got bariatric surgery, and then I had nutrient deficiencies. Now I'm spending more money in supplements and nutrients and still eating the crap food and still not getting healthy, and my productivity is lower. And now it's costing a spiral effect out in lowered productivity in the world. We don't realize the choices we make. And we make these choices from like a instant, like I'm not going to spend that because it costs too much. Don't see the long-term implications. Like people have always said to me, why you go out of network, you have insurance, blah, 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 whatever, but you're still going to holistic
Quality
doctor.
care.
Still, so to me, I've always done that. I've spent whatever it is on chiropractic, on a homeopath, on nutritional supplements, on acupuncture for my family and myself. But if you look at the actual costs of what it would cost to go to a regular doctor or have whatever procedure done through insurance, if you were footing that bill yourself, it would be 5 times what the chiropractor would be. And you're still not getting
sometimes
help.
many more times than that. Absolutely.
Just that out of
Yeah.
my head.
Well,
So
you brought up a really interesting point, Jen, which is making healthy choices as a matter of responsibility to your family, to society as a whole. Now, most people don't think in those terms. Are you expecting people to say, "Oh my God, Jen is right. Forget about me. I have to do this so society gets better because we're in a precarious place right now"?
So years ago, and yes, I am. I'm expecting people's responsibility level to come up. So
Jen,
it is the
people are going
only
to throw
way,
things at you. That's a tough thing to demand.
it's the only way that we're going to thrive as a society and as individuals. And we're not islands. We are all connected. So years ago, I worked for a law firm, and the first thing that when I was hired, I got seated by the hiring manager, and she said to me, "We have a lot of high-profile clients. If you say one word outside of here of a confidential situation, it will ripple out and affect people. And it will always come back to you. We will always find where the source is, always.
Mhm.
Your responsibility is not just to keep the confidentiality for the client, it's your responsibility versus lack of responsibility ripples out. And that was like a sit back in my chair pivotal moment in my life. I was 18 years old. And I always thought, like, wow, I'm responsible for more than just me. And that is something that Michelle Abada is her name. Thank you, Michelle, if you're ever out there, Abade, impacted my life in such a way that it opened my eyes up to my personal responsibility bigger than just myself at a young age.
So do
So-
employers then, or should employers have the right to sit down their employees and say, listen, everything you do is a reflection of us. It's a reflection upon your family. It's either contributing or taking away from society. Therefore, I expect you to be a size 4. I expect you to never curse. I expect you to not drink or do any drugs. I mean, so how far does this responsibility extend, and what is fair to demand of people?
So she didn't go into specifics. She just listed the one particular thing. And then I chose to apply it to my life on a broader scale, right?
Mm.
If you told me not to curse, I'd be in trouble because I've got a potty mouth. Let's just call that what it is. Do I curse on the lives? Sometimes. Do I drop the F-bomb with clients? If they drop it first, maybe. But there's also a decorum that you have to have the ability to apply judgment to every situation on the fly as you're going. So do I disrespect the clients that are there? No, that's a reflection on the business. That's a reflection on me. That's a reflection on my family. So like, if you're doing business with somebody who disrespects you, right? Don't do business with them. If you have friends who are treating you like garbage, why are they in your friend list? Like if you have friends who are behind your back sneaking in, why? If you have
I'm gonna take this up in a couple of minutes, but I do want to pose another question to everyone, and we could start with Corinne. The question is this: it's basically the question that Jackie posed. What is the cost? What is the price of being healthy? And obviously, I'm not just talking about finances.
Right.
What is the overall cost, and is it worth it? Corinne, take it away.
So for me, I'll go back to like the negative side. I was a lot heavier and I spent so much time watching the kids do something and I didn't do it because I was uncomfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
And as I get healthier, I'm now part of the memory. I'm now part of the laughs.
Yeah.
So to me, the cost of getting healthier is making amazing memories, not feeling like you're looking out on the sidelines. When you walk up the steps, you don't feel like you feel like
You're
this is awesome.
suggesting the benefit, and you're putting the benefit into that cost analysis.
That is the cost to me. The cost to me is there's such a positive benefit that why would you not? It's
Right.
just like, for example, I was guilty, right? Like I used to give the kids granola bars that were not really very healthy. And then I said, you know what? And I investigated and I learned that there was granola bars that had vegetables in them and the kids ate them without a problem. And I'm like, you know what? Like if they're going to eat something, like let them eat something that's better for them versus garbage, or like replacing Cheez-Its with butternut squash chips.
Right.
Like you have to just kind of make the choices. Like, do you want to make better choices so that you're there to live in the long run? Because if you don't, it's kind of like a heart attack or wonderful memories. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to clog your arteries?
Well, that makes it easy, huh?
That's extreme.
What do you want? You want to have a heart
It is,
attack or wonderful
but it is.
memories? Huh, let me think about that.
But like, let's think about it, right? You spend your lifetime eating things that are so unhealthy, and then you end up with clogged arteries, and you end up sitting on the sidelines because you don't feel good.
Well,
all the time.
there's no doubt about that. I think the challenge is to attach
Mhm.
you know, the moment where you're eating the crap with the potential heart attack. And
Yeah.
this is one of the problems when we're talking about time and sequences of events, because
Right.
you could always rationalize it as, well, this one time is not going to give me a heart attack. And you'd be correct.
Yeah.
But when you keep making that choice over and over again, yes, it could very easily
Right.
add
Mhm.
up to a heart attack. And heart disease is considered the #1 killer in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Trisha, let me ask you the same question.
Yeah.
What
So-
is the cost of making a lot of noise on one of our lives? Because I got to tell you, it's going to be pretty hard.
It's not me this time.
Okay.
No, it's everybody coming in.
All right.
So
What is the cost of,
Is that
being
stampede?
healthy?
for me, for a long time, I let myself go. And looking back, I cannot believe that I had gotten to the size and weight I was. So for me, looking, I guess, to the future wise, like, you know, I feel like our older generation family members, you know, always just seemed heavy, you know, like, and, you know, had issues and diabetes and heart problems and all that. So for me, looking forward, I just don't want that for myself.
Right.
Don't want that for my kids. So the cost for me was looking forward into the future.
Well,
Figure it out now, put a handle on
Okay.
it, and get it under control. And then in the future, you know, God willing,
Well,
there won't be
what's
no
the
problem.
price? So that's the price you don't want to pay. That's the consequence
Right.
you want to avoid. So what's the price then that you're willing to pay, or you should be willing to pay now in order to build the health? What is it?
Yeah.
What does it cost? What do you need to sacrifice in order to be healthy now to avoid that?
Sacrifice, you know, all the garbage, you know, like I'm taking control, eating healthier, exercising a little bit more. So, you know, you take care of that now for the long run for myself.
Got it. Okay, Jax, how about you?
I think for me, the cost is happiness. You know, we say it all the time where it's happy, healthy, hopeful. And as much as it seems it's something that we think we're doing and we're not. So as a whole, like the first thing I say is like, I'll say my prayers and like, thank you God for everything. Please keep my family. And I started to catch on to this. I always say, please keep my family, my children, my friends safe, happy, and healthy. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, I didn't even know. Oh, I'm always asking for that for everyone else.
Not yourself.
And the truth is, if I do it for myself, I am already avoiding a problem. I'm already fixing something. I'm putting those guidelines in place for myself, like what my expectations are for living a happy, healthy, and hopeful life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it doesn't just comes full circle. It's not necessarily just the food. It's our actions. It's who we surround ourselves by. It's our daily choices. Do I want to sit on the couch all day on a beautiful day, or do I want to go outside and get some fresh air? Do I want to take a walk around the block and be in my kids' space for 5 minutes where I see them riding their bike? Or do I want to, you know what, let me just go unload the dishwasher. You guys start playing. You know, there are a lot of things that, you know, build that foundation for that life that you want to live. And it's not always easy. It's not always cookie cutter. It's not always, you know, bypassing the latte or the non-organic chicken. But overall, if a majority of your choices are done with good intention and come from a happy, positive place, I feel like your value goes up and therefore it becomes priceless. You know, your cost of health is that. The 80-20 rule, I say this all the time. Like it's not about being perfect, but it's crazy. It's a constant. It's not about being perfect at all. And anybody's perception is theirs,
Right.
but it's
Right.
about balance. It's about balance that works.
Correct.
Got it.
Realistically, being honest with yourself.
Okay, good. Thank you. Jennifer,
Yes.
to you, what is the cost of being healthy?
So the cost of being healthy is just being able to, it's redundant, live a better life. So, you know, Corinne hit the nail on the head when she was saying walking up the stairs without going like this. Like we're all on program again because we were challenged to do better. Like we represent, right? And I must say everybody is doing really well and looking really well, looking really good. But, you know, we're all at a midpoint where I'm looking at the stairs here, 13 stairs. I was not once upon a time able to get up those 13 stairs without pausing midway and going, it was hard. And even recently, it was harder getting up and down the stairs. And within the past 2 to 3 weeks, I realized I'm running down the stairs and running back up the stairs. So that to me is everything because that builds on itself.
Yeah.
So when you start winning in life, whatever the wins are, they could be tiny. It's a drip, drip, drip to a better win. So years ago, in a lifetime long, long ago, I was part owner of a laundromat. And that laundromat was based on quarters, right? Quarter business. And it did really, really well. And it floated my household. Those quarters add up to dollars. So when we look
Absolutely.
at tiny choices snowballing into better choices, into better lifestyle choices, into bigger wins, you have to start on a lower gradient scale, which means a lower learning curve, a lower, smaller choices, and work up to the bigger choices. But if you don't start with the small steps, you can't take the giant leaps.
Yeah, Vegas was built on those quarters. So you're right. It's a very apt
That's true.
analogy. And
Yeah.
let me say a couple of things. First of all, Joe says, excellent topic. It's also true. Yes, you guys look fantastic. Nice shirt, Dr. R. So this is my shirt. I'm wearing a KISS shirt. All right. Representing KISS Nation. No. I haven't been a KISS fan for about 50 years, but I did
Well, the
enjoy
cool
them back
kids
in
are
the
wearing
day.
those shirts now, Dr. R.
Well, there you go. And I may have started that trend. So I want to sum up here. And I have no doubt that when I sum up, you guys are going to have thoughts that you are going to probably be jumping out of your seat in order to express. I will ask that you please do not, because
Don't
then
use a
we
post-it
will
note.
go for another 40 minutes or so. Okay. So let me suggest a few things. Number one is that when we're talking about the cost of being healthy is like anything else. There is a cost associated with it. It very much has to do with resources. It very much has to do with choices. It does take some time. If you're going to exercise, it takes time out of your day to exercise. If
Right.
you want to frame it like it takes time out of your day. I mean, it can also be a very joyous kind of get to thing instead of a have to, right? It takes understanding, learning. That in of itself is a sort of a resource, right? You have to know what it takes in order to build health. Most of us know the basics, right? If it's green and it comes from the ground, it's probably going to be better than if it's brown and it comes in a box.
Right.
For the most part, I think that's a fair understanding. Okay. So it also takes, and I love this, it does take that intentionality and it does take that discipline to know in the moment that the things you do add up and that you're going in one direction or you're going in the other directions. Like Jen said, if you don't choose, the universe will choose for you. Your body is a machine. And if you don't choose to give that machine what it needs, then just the forces of the universe will break it down, right? That's kind of how we're designed. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to give everyone a sort of a tool, right? Kind of a paradigm, a way to think about it. And I don't think about it. And the challenge is going to be, I mean, I have had this thought, but the challenge is going to be to have enough awareness and discipline in the moment when we're making one of those 80,000 choices a day, to in the moment to remember this and have the discipline to follow through on it. And the paradigm is this. There are people who talk about, and this is going to get a little hippy dippy granola. So there are people who talk about health and who talk about beings, human beings as we are, and everything having to do with energy. And a way to conceptualize that is to think about light. So theoretically, everything we do is either going to add to our light and brighten it, or it's going to dim it.
Yes.
And that's all of our choices. That includes our food choices. That includes whether or not we exercise. That includes our choice to connect with people who are in our lives, to enhance them as well. And I am going to make that request, and I'm going to make it of myself first, that we have that consciousness, that we keep it in mind. Every choice that we make is a choice to where we are again, we're enhancing that light or we are dimming it. And I think if we can be disciplined with that, then we can absolutely build better selves. We could absolutely make better choices, and we could absolutely benefit everyone around us. And thank you for that bell, because that tells us our time is up.
Sorry.
And we will see everyone next week. And please carry this into the world with you, what we discussed today. Otherwise, its utility is very limited. And
Physics
Jen-
not hippy dippy.
And Jen has to run because there are men with butterfly nets outside of her door.
Oh my God.
So that's going to be it. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, God.